I'm here with Greg Steen from Seattle, Washington, and I am Charlie Kirimal Johnson, and this is In Touch. In touch of our feelings, in touch of the realities, in touch of learning, growing, and evolving. So, how you doing, Greg?
I'm doing wonderful. I just want to thank you for inviting me to this platform. I understand that this is a groundbreaking beginning to, staying in touch with, all parts of the world, but coming together for a common cause surrounding addiction. So thank you.
I thank you, and I'm hoping that you will be a partner with us so we can spread the good word.
But if I gotta ride a bike over there, I'm with it. So
Oh, no,
I'll be
don't worry
there.
about it. I will find a way to get you here. So,
All right.
all right, tell me a bit about yourself. I mean, what was life like for Greg when you were a child?
It was fun. It was a lot of summer trips to Texas, close to Texas A&M. My grandmother had a house down there, so my mother comes from a large family, of singers, musical talent on that side of the family, and so we gravitated towards Texas occasionally each summer. But at the same time, there were instances where I remember getting pulled out of school in elementary school. I would just be there like I was the guy who disappeared like in the middle of the year, right? And so, I often wonder what that did to me as I was developing that instability. But we had to reintegrate down in Texas or whatever. But I was a kid who liked media even back then. I admired people who were good at what they did. I was an Elvis fan, Bruce Lee fan. It was something about the achievements of someone who had mastered, what they had put so much work into that drew me as a kid, right? And so I started recording episodes of comedy shows and, reciting, what I heard. But yeah, at a very early age, I was gravitated towards radio, film, and television to some extent.
Yeah, I used to be a classical ballet dancer. I was trained in a classical way. I studied in a conservatoire and everything till I actually busted myself while I was high out of my mind. And
Yeah.
I had to end my career like that. But yeah, isn't it a
Okay.
coincidence? You know, you come from an artistic side, I come
Yeah.
from an
Yeah.
artistic side.
Well, I
It was,
played I played in high school. I played trumpet for a while. So before I ever picked up a hip hop microphone or anything like that, which I did eventually, I was just I read sheet music and everything. So I think that had something to do with. But the arts are great for anybody who wants to, develop.
yeah,
So
it helps us do this today too.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it gives you skills. So when did when did it start with you?
Well, I would say officially, so we're talking about the 80s, which was the big crack cocaine era that had hit California. For me in 1986, just to give you some context, I had graduated in 84 and I went to a trade school for computers in 85. And with those skills that I acquired there, I landed a job at a local bank, financial institution. It was downtown Seattle, high rise. And I worked in the wire transfer department, which was transferring funds from bank to bank,
Oh,
corporation to corporation. And so my life was good then. I was in the music. I had a girlfriend, and, I had a driver's license, a few credit cards. So I'm like,
yeah.
my mom and dad, they weren't charging me too much. So life was good. I was still a free spirit. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it was it was when I started drinking a little bit, I used to just test everything, right? Not everything, but like if you saw me drinking a beer when I was 18, they were like, dude, you're spitting it out. You're not even like I wouldn't really consume it. I would just or like it was almost like I tried to make myself like it or attachment to it, right? So in 1986. I met a girl and we were hanging out in this particular area that was pretty rough. And like I said, during this period of time, cocaine was everywhere. And so I essentially ran into it, and it was given to me by someone that I trusted, someone that I knew, right? And I tell people this all the time that that stuff don't come with instructions. It doesn't come with a video that says like this is what's gonna happen, 20 years from now, right? And so and it was super, super addictive. And so at first I thought it was a game. I'm not lying. I thought it was like, it was so powerful that, all my experiences they weren't negative initially. You know what I mean? That wasn't the stage. It takes a while to get really nasty, you know what I mean? And little I didn't know that it would take years, but what that did was it began to chew away at my life that I had, right? What successes that I did have were now in jeopardy, right? The bank not going to work on time, and this is how the job got expired for me. So, I in those early years, I had successes and I had failures, and I didn't know about the philosophy of, relapse and, learning from your relapse. They weren't talking like that when I back then. I never heard because I wasn't attending, I was not even associated with that, right? I was just out there. It was like a secret you couldn't keep,
Yeah.
and but the results of that drew questions from people like my mother.
So what were you doing as a downer?
You talking about like a counter to the
Yeah,
upper or
yeah,
what?
yeah. The
Oh,
counter to the other.
just alcohol, you know what I mean? Not so I wasn't really a big marijuana smoker,
Yeah,
because I was the type that takes one toke and I'm good for 12 hours. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And
yeah.
that's just how my system is set up. So to come down off of those experiences at that particular time, I just would either, drink or, but like I said, I got more questions about my behavioral change from those that were closest to me before anybody else really noticed what was going on.
So what was going on the behavioral side of it?
Well, I mean, so I didn't grow up I didn't grow up in juvenile detention. I never had any juvenile crimes or anything. So I like to think at that time I was a good guy, right? Without even knowing it.
Still a good guy,
However,
dude. But
I know it's just like looking back, you just see all this stuff, right? But you said what changed?
yeah,
Was that
what
was the
changed
question?
behaviorally? What shifted behaviorally for you?
Well, I think that, I compromise my integrity, right? And what I mean by that is that, I began to involve myself in small thefts and petty thefts and things like that. If I had something of value, it was just it would be traded, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
of
sure.
my sources of income were depleted from not going to work. Then, but like I said, I was a real big struggle during that time because I would say 65% of me was still who I was, right? But there was this other percentage of me that was chewing at it, trying to grow and get its strength at the same time, right? And so it was just, I had issues with money. I couldn't keep money. I couldn't keep a car, anything that required being responsible. My brain was still developing, right? We didn't know about this till later that
Yep.
I was still developing, but it stunted, um, to some degree, it stunted my development as far as reasoning, decision making, and things like that, right? And I think that it damaged that area because that's what it does, right?
It hijacks
Although
it, basically.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The sole aim is to, although on the exterior side you wouldn't think that, but that's why when you recover from a relapse, your body it feels all weird because it's trying to come back into balance, right? But we didn't know anything about like that stuff in the streets back then, so I just became a different person slowly. You know what I mean? The
Yep.
things that I would stray away from before, like hanging out and drinking in the projects or things like that, I had no problem with. I became more comfortable. I started smoking cigarettes. And
Mm.
so usually the people that, were around me were, heavy into not only drugs, but they could have been associated with criminal behavior. And so I began to get groomed by this other side, right? This other side. And, eventually there was some court appearances. And then, there was a lot of jails, a lot of stints in jail, a lot of county jails. And, when I first went to treatment, my first treatment center, I'll never forget it. It was one of those ones where the residents in the house can just stop you in the middle of the hall and say, "Get a grip." They can just stop you if they see some behavior, right? And so, I was for a person like me, I mean, it was hard to deal with, but I was a runner though. You know what I mean? Look, if you didn't have an ankle monitor on me or something like that, this is literally how I got out of that treatment center. Right? I was tired of getting told get a grip, right? And went to the welfare office to sign me up for food stamps and all that, right? And so I had an escort, right? And so when we were in line doing the thing, I said, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom," right? It's straight out of the Italian Job, jump out the window type thing, right? I didn't know if the welfare office had a window in the bathroom, right? But they did, and I went out of it, right? And
You
so,
know,
yeah,
it gave you your out,
I gone. Yeah, and then I go by the front and see the guy still sitting there. I was like, no, there's no telling how this poor guy was sitting there. And he had to go back and explain why I was MIA, right? But just like that, and I didn't run. I ran from confrontation. I'll put it that way, right? I didn't run from. I didn't know what help was back then. All I knew is that it felt like I was being forced to do this, and I had no concept of recovery at that time.
How old were you when you first experienced your first treatment?
I think I was 22. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got help. Well, I first, dealt with drugs when I was 21, right? So we're talking about in a period of a year. I was being seen by I was in group sessions and things like that, but like at the time, unfortunately, it wasn't important to me because I didn't understand the severity of my disease at that time, right? All I knew is that when I got some money, I was going to one or two places with it, right? Now, as far as money goes, of course, I wouldn't spend all my money on drugs and stuff like that. But it was just like I said, it was like every time you would climb just a little bit, there's that other percentage would chew away at it, right? And sometimes it would wait until you got into a good point. It would just sit back and wait till you got to a good point, and then it would topple, right? And so
Yeah.
that type of back and forth went on for quite a while.
Oh, wow. So, which way did you go? Did you do harm reduction or did you try actual recovery?
I would say that I self-initiated harm reduction, right? Like, because it was hard for me to listen to people back then because I was young. I mean, I just, I was just experiencing freedom, and it was hijacked, as you said. And so I didn't gravitate towards meetings and group sessions. I just, I sought help from my mother was very instrumental in my troubles with addiction, right? And she was the type of mom who, if I was on the street, and I had been on the street for a while, she was the type with my little sister that would bring a care package down, right? Moms are they you ain't ate today, baby. Moms will come down there with an emergency sack. They had to keep you surviving. You know what I mean? Food.
But she
Five or
wouldn't enable it, would she?
well, I mean, it's so tough for moms, right? I'm speaking from my experience with my mom to know that their child is out there, right? And it's not, I know some people leave home early, but this is different because your child is in a sense, there's a disability that is occurring at the same time, right? You know the areas in which he frequents are dangerous. Like I didn't have experience in going to missions and all that all that stuff was new. The people downtown Seattle, it was a whole nother world, right? And it was one that I had to navigate, and I did, But at the same time, I started doing other things, like I signed up to go fishing in Alaska, right? In '93.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm like the only black fisherman on this boat, right? I wouldn't even call the fisherman yet, but I went on the boat, and it was a beautiful experience being out in the Bering Sea, right? We're on like a 325 footer or something like that. And that's where I learned how to work. That's
Yeah.
where I learned degrees of, I worked a 32-hour shift one time, right? That's where I learned how to work fast, hard, and be strong. So it really did a lot for me. It was almost like my military, right? It's maritime in a sense, though. But at the same time, that money that I came back with gave me more power to do more destructive things.
Oh, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, it's an easy mark to see when you see a guy downtown and he's wearing rubber boots from the boat. You know he's got money, right? And so, I cycled through that. I was up there, took 9 trips to Alaska, and then, but prior to that, which I didn't mention, is that I had went to broadcasting school in 1989 at Bailey School of Broadcast, because I always had a resonance in my voice that people commented on and said I sound like a DJ, right? So I kind of really took this lady up on that and graduated from that school and got a job on a local radio station where I worked for 2.5 years as the primetime DJ from 7 to midnight, right? This opportunity gave me to meet national celebrities like LL Cool J, DJ Quick, all the prominent rappers. When they came to town to do concerts, they all found their way to come into that space where I was, right? And so, that was almost my way of, if I didn't make it in the industry, then they all came to me and we met. So it was beautiful during that time, right?
Yeah. 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 So, when did it hit you that you couldn't carry on the way that you were carrying on? What happened?
Well,
What
I
flipped the switch?
there was a switch of the flip too, or you see how I flip those words around? Okay,
Yep.
so when I committed a felony for drug money, that was an indicator that there could possibly be somebody else at the controls or something at the controls, right? Because I am, accountable for my actions. However, at the same time, I'm being driven. It's almost like you said, being hijacked, where it's almost like in Men in Black, where the alien is in under the head and he's got the controls and all that. That's what it's
Yep.
like. You know
I
what I
know.
mean? And yeah, and so when that happened, and I felt like I didn't have any control of it, I remember my mom was going to take me downtown, and I looked at her and I said, I can't control it. I told her, I said, I can't. That's all I said to her. And she knew. But I was speaking as clear-minded as I could, right? I said, I can't control it. But that would only be the beginning of, advanced criminal behavior, robberies and things like that, all to fuel, the addiction. And at some point, the court system said, you know what? Since you want to continue doing this and you don't want to go to treatment, you want to jump out the window at the welfare office, guess what? We're going to send you to prison. And so, I've been to prison 4 times. And the last time, like I was telling my man there, Washington has a 3 strikes and you're outlaw,
Yep.
which means that if you get 3 of any particular type of crime, and I did, they can sentence you to life without parole. Right. And that's exactly what happened to me in 2009 of September. So for roughly 13 years, I didn't have a release date. I woke up and went to sleep knowing that the fact that I would never leave that place again. but that's
How
not
did
what I
that feel?
believed in. Huh?
How did that feel?
Um, it felt challenging, right? It felt liberating because I knew I had a tendency to rise to the occasion, right? I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what to call it, but based on my environment and my situation, I have a way to elevate and see things and connect things together for the benefit not only of myself but for those around me, right? And so this came in the form of with no release date, getting my associate's degree in prison. I was, as long as I was connected to some type of education, my mind was free because I knew that I was becoming a better person,
Yeah.
as each month went by and each class that I took, geography, environmental science, things like that, mass media, theater, all those things were available to me, which was unprecedented at the time that, you should see the list of classes that I had when I came out, right? So I had associates when I came out because they had changed the law for this particular bill, which was a blessing in itself. And
Yeah.
so they said that if you have a robbery two on your record, robbery two is no longer a strike, and you will go back to court and get resentenced as if you did not have that. And so I had two of them on my record. So that meant that if I go back to court, and I did, they're going to take those two off. So now I just have the one, right? And so that's how I got released from prison.
Brilliant.
Um, uh,
Brilliant.
yeah. So I
How
just
long?
believed in something bigger. That's all.
Yeah. How long? You were clean and sober while you were an inmate, right?
All the time. Yes.
Brilliant. Did you guys
Yeah.
have any kind of support while you were in there for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
addiction and stuff like that?
Yeah, typically, the prison environment consists of volunteers who come in from the community, and they would, host AA and NA
Yeah.
meetings and things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
up here in Washington, initially they did have like, substance abuse courses that would count towards your court restrictions, or if your judgment and sentence said you need drug treatment, right? Sometimes the prison system up here in Washington, they would have those, but as the years started to progress forward, more and more things were taken out, more and more programming was removed from prisons, right? And I know
Right.
this is just not exclusive to up here, but
Yeah.
that's how you have to get creative, right? Just like a friend of mine, Kamani, told me, he said, if you want something, you have to create it yourself,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
don't wait on somebody to just create it yourself, and you will provide for yourself and be able to help people like you want to be helped, right? And
Yeah, that's
so,
basically what I did myself too, with my
yeah,
career. I wanted to become a therapist after after me entering recovery. I wanted to help people like me because the system in place was horrid at that point.
right,
And that was my motivation. And I've learned really fast if I wanted some kind of change to happen, I
yeah,
had to create it myself, and yeah, that's how everything evolved, really. So,
yeah.
have
It's
you ever
interesting.
relapsed? Have you ever
Oh
relapsed
yeah,
after a
oh
certain
yeah,
period? No, no,
oh
no.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
after you got out.
Thousand thousand times. Well, not after I got out. Yeah, I did. I was in a transition house when I first got out, and so it was I mean, I had been abstinence for 12 years, so
Yeah,
I hadn't done anything since then. But when I got out and I was in this transition home, it was beautiful, because they had a certain structure that you had to follow, go to meetings and be accountable and all that kind of stuff, right? And so some people like myself, now that I reflect back, should have stayed in that type of environment, right? Because where I had come from and where I had lived like 24, 25 years in jails and prisons, everything is structured. And so, that being institutionalized, PTSD, all that stuff is real because
yeah,
those experiences are forms of trauma, right? Which can embed themselves. But at the same time, um, I remember, drinking first, right? And I was still under the conditions of this program. I remember drinking first. And for some reason I don't want to say, but I do want to say that it opened the door for, it lowered my inhibitions, but it didn't feel like it at the time. Because I didn't drink and then the next day go buy my drug of choice. I didn't do that, right? And I was really far removed from that, but I would learn very quickly that it's always a small decision away, right? And it's just like when you got introduced to it, how it was a small decision that changed you. When you reverse that, it's always there, right? Like you could touch, right? But you just don't, like my friend said, you just don't do, right?
Yeah,
Because he was like,
yeah.
he was
No, no,
like,
I get it.
well,
I
what
get
can
it.
I do to help you? And so yeah, I relapsed. Shoot, I don't know how many times, right? But then I began to learn that, after the disappointment of realizing that, hey, this thing is still a problem. It can be a problem. It's not the same reactions, and I don't want to sell everything. All that stuff is gone, but it's still a problem, right? And I was like, well, I can't walk outside and and snap my fingers and have all my environment change just because of my mentality, right? Or what my hang up is. I need to address that particular thing that is preventing me from being a productive community member, right? I have to do that, right? I believe in support, recovery support, but at the end of the day, when nobody's looking, you go in your house and close the door, you know, is you got to
You're
make the
with
right
you.
choices.
Yeah, you're with
Yeah.
you. And if you don't like take the steps to cover your ass, as I put it,
Yeah,
then you just go down the drain. I mean, it's
that's
that
right.
simple. So,
That's right.
um, so when you look back, who was the one person that didn't give up on you?
My mom.
Oh, bless her. Is she
Yeah.
still around?
No, I lost her when I was in prison in 2012, and I
Oh,
still remember how I heard about the news. My eldest daughter, Dominique, she wrote me and told me that my mom had passed away. She had her cancer. It came back for the second time, and she just refused treatment. So she was just tired. She just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I think she just got to the point where she said, if this sounded good, Lord wants to take me and transition me, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I can, as much as I would say, understand that. I just, my mom was, I was a mama's boy anyway. Somebody got to do it, right? And but I think that she hurt inside knowing that I was experiencing what I was experiencing. But you know how people say it made you what you are today? Those things are true, but at the same time, you still feel all that. You have to deal with that type of trauma. But the number one person that supported me, I would say my mom, and then several of my kids also were very understanding about what I had been through, and they're still a part of my life today. So I got some
you're such a
support out
lucky
there.
guy. You
Yeah.
you're a lucky guy. Many of us, when we were active in our disease,
Hmm.
um, unfortunately, don't have people left when we get into recovery that still believes
Yeah.
in us and
Yeah.
is willing to take a chance on us, etc. It's very hard for them to trust us again. It's very hard for them to
Yeah.
be with us again because we failed them and we failed ourselves more actually.
Yeah.
And I come to understand that watching someone failing themselves over and over and over again, the
Hmm.
damage that does to that person is is truly horrible because they're
True.
powerless to help us,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
I think it has a worse effect on them than it has on us because
Oh yeah.
we're in the end we're survivors, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we live the disease, we know what to do, and we survived it. We're here. We didn't die.
Right.
We found a way
Right.
out of it, or
Right.
we found our way in it. Let's put it that way. But those
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
they just have to watch. It's really
It's so
hard for
it's so much stress and trauma that comes with, observing someone that you care about and love. experience those type of things because like we're all connected in some sort of sense. And so for a family member or someone that cares about you, someone that raised you since you was a baby, for example, when you experience pain, they feel a sense of that as well, right? And it's just how it is, especially that connection between mother and child. But it doesn't stop exclusively there. I mean, you can have good friends that care about you who are concerned about the path in which you are traversing, the crowd in which you are hanging out or communing with. And you just don't see it that way because you have the toxins inside of you that blind that aspect of your decision making and awareness, right? So, and that's what it does also. It puts the blinders on you so you can't even feel your way around being in a normal in any type of way. So, you don't find these things out till later though, so
No, not really. Sorry about the barking. I've got a little pooch. It's not
yeah,
very
you should
little.
let him in. Let him get on the
No,
camera, let him
no,
in.
dude. Have you heard about a Kangal dog?
Have
Anatolian
I who?
Shepherd. Have you
No, let
heard
me see
about a
him.
Kangal dog, an Anatolian Shepherd? I will send
No.
you a picture of him later on.
Okay.
He's huge.
Is
He's
he?
massive.
I
So,
like those kind of dogs.
um, anyway, what what was hard when you actually made the choice to get into long-term recovery? What was the hurdles? What was the barriers? What was the obstacles for you to
The the
get to where you are?
the hurdles and battles were with self, it was nobody else's fault. It was not the neighbor across the street, or it wasn't the guy hanging outside that was waiting for me to come out. That none of that occurred, right? I would create these situations all on my own. When I
Yeah.
finally realized that, I was the problem, and then so I began to, seek different types of treatment to figure out, what was going on. Was this something long ago that I don't remember that caused me to, it was nothing like that. So, like I said, the successes that I've had in my life convinced me that, I could survive. What would it be like if I didn't use? I mean, how successful would I be, right? So I've always had this monkey on my back for, you know, 30 years or whatever. What would it look like? And so that question to self intrigued me, right? And so I re-enrolled in school into applied behavioral science and working towards a bachelor's degree in that particular field while simultaneously working towards a substance use professional certification, right? So my thinking was like this. I was like, I spent all these years in addiction recovery, homelessness, jails, prisons. I said, why don't I just find some kind of connection with school and just kind of put all that together like some Play-Doh and then form something out of it, right? Because I'm like
Um,
this, like I know I didn't go through all that for nothing. So let me
yep,
count
there
that
you
as
go.
credits,
Yep,
and then you pull that forward. Some people
there
call it a
you
lived
go.
experience, but it's got to make sense. Well, why don't I make it make sense, right?
Exactly.
And so doing
Exactly.
things like this where I can, pour back into, what was drawn out of me, it
Yep.
makes sense for me to be involved in those type of activities. So
Yep. That's what I said when I first got into become a therapist and dedicating myself fully into this. I lived all of that crap for a reason, you know,
yeah,
and
come on.
I have skills that I can integrate into this, and maybe I can touch somebody's life, you know,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and help them out. But you know what? It's a two-way street. Nobody
yeah,
understands that. When you're helping that person professionally, or when you're training your students, it helps you out also. I mean,
right.
it strengthens your recovery also, because you're
Yeah,
constantly reminding yourself, this is where you come from. And the only reason why I didn't relapse is that, I don't have the strength to relapse, and get back on the wagon again
Uh,
because I don't have the energy to go through that again. So I might as well
yeah.
not do it at all, you know?
Yeah, and
It's
then
not,
the thing about relapse is that usually typically uh they get worse.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
The effects of the area is worse each time, and so thank God for that it gets to a point to where it just like you just finally say like, you know what, this I can't do this. This is too much.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
do it. And yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, getting into I got about 8 months left before I'm done with my BA. And so, I want to take all that, participate in things like the In Touch and just try to work it forward, and because we're not promised tomorrow, but I mean if you want to, I'm at the point right now where I'm just trying to be a contribution to society, right? It might be bigger than my community, it might be something global, but I am definitely done with those real life experiences. I'm at the point to where now I need to communicate,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
you're in the right place, dude. And I'm so happy that we met.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I added you on LinkedIn. Something about you just pulled me. And then that day when I shared that message,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to send this to him. No reason other than that feeling, I'm going to send this to him.
Yeah.
And you reply to me, I needed this today. And I'm like, there's a connection there.
You're
And
absolutely right. Sometimes when we are in spaces that are uncomfortable for us within ourselves,
yeah,
we'll receive help,
there you go. There you
we'll
go. And
receive
you never
help.
know where it's going to come from, right? It
Yeah,
is
and
so
I
amazing.
recognized it. I recognized, who you were and why you were there, and then the messaging. It was just like, I really, really appreciated that injection of life. I'll put it that way, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I can't thank you enough for that. Those type of things are very impactful, whether we, believe it or not, giving support, positive affirmations and things like that could do a lot for people more than sometimes we know.
No, I truly do believe in our journeys. We do encounter people that are meant to be. I
Yeah.
had hundreds of them in my life, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. Some of them stayed in my life. Some of them passed away. Some of them just touched me and moved on. But I am so grateful for every little thing that they contributed to me and my recovery, to my life, to my way of life, for me to look at things, etc. Okay, let's get to the dirty stuff, right?
Let's go.
Did you ever hear this word? Oh, he's just a fucking addict.
Not that word, but not that word, but yeah,
Yeah.
if we were to look in if we were to look in the thesaurus, then that word would be accompany many words. It depends on the drug you're using, right? Because
Yeah.
every drug and user has the dehumanizing language that goes with that, right? And yeah, I think the one time it really hurt me was when my little sister said it. You know, she
Oh,
didn't use she didn't use that word, but and I don't even want to say what word she used, but she was absolutely right. For I was her big brother, and still am, but like I said, the effects of my actions, bled into my family. It hurt my sister to see me out there like that, because since she was born up into, a certain age, I was who I was supposed to be, in her
mhm.
eyes and that. So, 'cause she was so young, not to, and she couldn't, there's no way she could comprehend what was going on or why I was going on, why I couldn't change that. Yeah, I mean, on the street, when you're immersed into the culture of illicit drugs and stuff, you know, I remember standing in a line downtown, and it was a place called Night Watch, right? Night Watch was a place where if you didn't have a place to sleep, you would stand in line and you would go in and get a referral to one of the shelters downtown, right? This type of thing would be happening at like 10:30. I remember one time standing in line, I had my backpack and stuff, and there was a club that was about a block and a half away. And, I hear the music coming with the car, I hear the girls in the car talking and stuff like that. And that was so embarrassing and humiliating for me, right? Because, you know, generally people just they just are baffled at, how if they would have seen where I was, you know, 10 years ago and where I was now, you'd be like, man, and it'd been a struggle all the way through, right? But yeah, it's difficult anytime, even when you're in recovery, when you go make amends and all that, right?
No. Oh,
Some
that's
people
the
still have the
hardest
same
stuff.
impression as they did when you were using,
Yep.
right?
They
And
can't separate the
mhm,
disease from our personality because the disease has its own personality, and they
that's
think
right.
that's our personality, and
That's right.
that's the biggest mistake that they do. They can't separate
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That's why I like when they say, what is that? If you had, where they say, make amends. And, if you think that amends is going to do more harm than good, then you could write a
You
letter or
better
things
shut
like
up.
that. Yeah, I like that option. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
you better shut up. Yeah,
yeah, that way you ain't got to unearth all these people that yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just like sometimes you have to look forward, and and-
I look at it this way. That let's give an example. That I slept with one of my girlfriend's husband when I was, using, drinking, high out of my mind.
Mhm.
And I get into recovery and I go to her and I say, I have to make amends. Did you know that I slept with your husband? I mean, no, I didn't do that. But I mean, it would be that
Right.
ridiculous, right? It
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
have any kind of contribution
No,
to anything like that, you know.
no, it doesn't.
It just ruins everything. So that was the example that the person has given me when we were doing our amends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he says, if it's going to cause something like this, you better shut up.
Yeah. And I don't got a problem with that at all. But yeah, I would use my children, for example. Some of them experienced what it was like to not have me present, right? And I'm not just talking about, the years that I was in prison as well, right? And so even though I received most of the harm that I was doing, I was still harming them in a sense, right? And so when I got out of prison, some people they wanted to get to know. Some others liked it the way it was, even though I was out, right? Because they would look at me, I think they would feel as if they let their guard down, he's gonna soon as they let their guard down, they have a sense that I'm going to hurt because of the
Yeah,
vulnerability, right? And so, this is nobody's fault but my own, right? My actions dictated how predictable I would be, and how unpredictable I would be, right? And so that's why the work is so important that we do now because, sometimes you could be a living amends, right? You could be the type of amends that is based on the things that you do now, the example, the people that you serve. And sometimes when if you look too far back, you might want to see something that you want to forget, So yeah, that's crazy.
no, I get it. I dig that. I did
Yeah.
that. So, do you believe that the systems that are in place right now is helping people understand addiction, or do you think that
Mm.
our brethren out there with any kind of addiction, are they getting the adequate help that they need?
Yes, Washington State is, especially King County where I live, has a lot of support services, right? When you look at the homeless population in Washington State, I know that there was years ago there was in excess of 50 million that was given per year to combat homelessness, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, when the end user or the person who needs the services finally gets the help, the money has been chewed into by these new task force this, task force that, who are required to get paid. And by the time it's all said and done with, the person on the street just gets maybe a meal and a jacket or something, right? To whereas, now Washington, and I think that there's some other states that are investing in these tiny home villages, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just, you know what they look like, but they're pretty cool though, and recently, the mayor of our city, Katie Wilson, had emphasized the importance of putting money, fast tracking, issues of homelessness with people in the community, and I think
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
work that she's doing, she has done that. So
Do you think that do you think that we're looking at this situation um, in a way that it actually makes some matters worse? Like, because we look at addiction as all by itself, and we look at homelessness as all by itself. Um, I think we need a little bit more um, different perspective, actually combining all of it together and tackle the problem from different angles. Because um, I look at the insurance system and the recovery and the treatment system,
right,
right? It's like a factory constantly
sure.
producing the same product, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that hurts me. That really hurts me because I know if you have adequate systems in place, and if you know that if you give that adequate support to people and their families, and if
Yeah.
they really are ready to change their lives, there's no stopping them. But
Mhm.
but having this brokenness and not having the continuity of the help that they receive actually creates cracks. And once the person falls down the crack, uh, they might not get up again because, as you know, we don't come to the motivation of, getting into recovery every day. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way, right?
Right, right.
And that's something that really, really bothers me as a recovering person. And maybe doing all of this would, you know, tell people what's really needed. I don't know.
Yeah, this, sometimes, like this conversation we're having, right? It's gonna reach somebody and, cause a change, right?
Yeah.
The extent of that change, we don't know. But like I believe in positive messaging. I believe in karma, putting out good energy and service and helping. And so, we might not receive the residuals of that, but it's just not meant for us. We're just messengers. We are conduits of of survival, as you said. And the biggest question I think that people that are struggling with substance abuse is, how do I recover? Right? At this point where I am right now, fully addicted, how do I get to a point where your happiness matches mine? Right? What did you do to get out of that? What did you do? How many times did you fall? How many times did you relapse? How long did it take? It's going to take people different time spans. You just have to begin to do that. Like
Exactly.
you can't sit up here and say that, I've been using drugs for 20 years, right? For example, and I just all of a sudden the next day I want to stop, and it's just like there's stages to growth and recovery, and sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes like I said, reinventing yourself, right? There's enough space for everybody to have a role. you know. So you just have
And
to
the
find out
disease
what
is
that is.
actually And the disease is actually one disease. I mean, substance abuse and gambling and overeating and codependency and all of that, right? I mean, they're not separate diseases.
Yeah,
Those are
they
just those are part of our disease. And if we choose to stop substances and then go on to gambling, we're actually feeding the dragon with gambling. We're not feeding it with substance anymore. We're feeding it with gambling or with human relationships, you know,
Mhm.
as codependency or with overeating, or that's still substance abuse. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
consider.
you're describing what you know what is known, and I know you know about this. It's that pleasure reward pathway. You know,
Exactly. Yeah,
it's those spots that release that dopamine. You know, if I go to Chick-fil-A or whatever, it's not the chicken sandwich, it's what the chicken sandwich does to my brain that makes me
exactly.
feel like, hey, this is the best chicken sandwich I ever had. You know what I mean? And
There you
so
go. There you go.
yeah, it's you know, but like I said, it's so unfair for people who are in active addiction. Like, what is the likelihood that they would run into someone that could teach them about the pleasure reward pathway, right? It still doesn't negate the fact that, you know, the disease is at that particular level, and when the body is uncomfortable like that, sometimes it will do what it needs to do to change that. And I think that, like my teacher was saying in pharmacology, she was saying, if you look at a drug that's a stimulant, the opposite the withdrawal is the opposite side of that, right? So, you know,
Exactly.
you're up here, and then
Yeah.
that uncomfortable feeling that you feel is really your body going to work, not paying attention to your feelings at the time, but trying to get everything screwed back in that you done that you done messed up and all that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's either you got to get through that, and but a beautiful thing about it, Jael, is that if you notice when you're in recovery, especially in early recovery, each day you feel stronger than you
Exactly.
did before. But at the same time, you have to respect the fact that it's choices that we make, and it's sometimes it's just your decision. You know, if you're immersed into a culture of recovery and sobriety, that support does help. But you have to watch out for those moments where it's just you and the TV in your brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So
Well, I mean, I look at it this way. Getting into abstinence is one thing, right? But personal growth, finding out who you are, where you belong, and what you can do with your life, and actively work on those things, right? And then
right,
combine all those aspects in your life and start using them in 24 hours and becoming a better version of yourself. That takes a lot of work, right?
sure it does. Yeah.
And unfortunately, not everybody gets that chance.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we I believe that we need to make that accessible to people. So if they really want to do the work, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Here it is. Go for it,
Sure,
right?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I think you're
mean,
absolutely right about that.
yeah. So when things feel heavy, what do you do?
Oh, I
How
watch
do you stay grounded?
um well, so I tell you, remember when I was growing up, I tell you I was a big media guy.
Yeah,
Like, I like watching um greatness on like usually sports, right? If it's a playoff season or just the atmosphere of the announcer, the crowd, the chance to see something that's historical. And sometimes I might go back in time and pull up something on the cable that is like one of Muhammad Ali's greatest fights, or you know,
oh,
Mike Tyson's greatest knockouts or something like that, right? Because
yeah,
you know, those types of triumph, they inspire me, right? And so I would just, and I don't need like 15 people around cracking jokes. Like I really can amuse myself and laugh by
yeah,
myself
yeah,
just as loud as I would if there was people in the room, right? And I
yeah,
think that is a an acquired ability to be able to be content with self, right? And when we are addicts, we spend so much time isolating, right? So that was really one of the things that I pulled forward was the fact that I recharge in isolation, right? And I don't tape up the windows or put paper in the window or nothing like no Howard Hughes stuff, right? But sometimes silence and peace and enjoyment of the things that you really like to do, and sometimes people don't know what those things are, right? Because they're just for you.
I'm very happy being with myself. I'm my best
Yeah,
companion. Sometimes I
yeah,
kick my husband and my son out, and I say, "I need me time. Just get
yeah.
out. Just go,
I
go out,
know.
eat
Yeah,
out, whatever, and take the dog and just leave me the heck alone."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I
It's
think
important.
it's so valuable to have that relationship with yourself that you're
Yeah,
enough for you, you know.
yeah.
And
Because for so many years, we didn't feel like that, right?
no,
So.
no, no. So as you continue this journey, the path that you're in right now, what are you hoping for?
Well, like I said, I think that my future definitely has some type of media involved into it, whether it's podcast or some type of support services, whether that's just conversations about what I've been through and how to inspire others to make that traverse that pathway in the jungle, right? It's almost like arming people with a machete to get through the jungle, right? When you got that
Exactly.
gorilla on your back, you sometimes you have to show people how to sharpen what they already have to get through it, right?
Yeah.
And I like I was telling somebody, I definitely like working with students. Like, I work at a college right now in apprenticeships, and the young everybody seems like they're younger than me now. I turned 60 not too long ago, but I get an
You
opportunity
can tell. You don't
to
look 60, dude. You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
look
officially
60.
on paper, 60. So like I said, I get an opportunity to tap into the mindset of people that are still growing within themselves. Right now, I don't work in a recovery treatment center, but I have the skill sets to support that in conversation, right? With people that I
Exactly.
meet, right? I've had so many different jobs that, I can pretty much hold a conversation with a lot of people, right? And so, you know, I work in this food pantry area, right, for Project Baldwin, and it's an area to receive and for me to give, right? Even though it's just like, oh, he's just behind the front desk. No, actually, I'm not just behind the front desk, So I don't know. I like helping people, so it's probably gonna have to do something with that. So
It's in
and
our
media to some
DNA.
extent. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
in
yeah,
our
yeah.
DNA. Do you have the M on your palm also? My
Do I?
my
Do I?
husband told me, yeah, my husband told me that there's been this research that people
Yeah.
have M on their palms, which I do also
Oh,
on
you talking
both of
about
them.
that? You talking about that one? Wait a minute, where's it at?
Yeah, the M. Yeah,
That
the
right
M.
there. That one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a fancy M too.
You know what?
Well,
That research says that those people are altruist givers.
mm,
And I strongly do believe that now. I mean, when he first told me this, I was like, ah, go on, another mumbo jumbo coming out. But no, I
yeah,
truly do believe that. I think it's part of our DNA, it's part of our core, it's part of our
sure.
energy that, we are hardwired that way to help people.
Right,
And
right.
what better place than the young people? I love working with young people. I really do.
Yeah, like it's like I said, I keep reflecting to, the harder drug areas downtown Seattle. I would say that for each level of addiction, right, that you have a certain personality that goes with that. You have a certain characteristics that go with that. And each one of those stages, based on who you're talking to, you're trying to help, requires certain dialogue. It requires for you to meet that person where they are, right? And so you have to have a flexibility, like I'm like that's like me saying like, well, I'm gonna get a private practice and I'm gonna have, it's gonna cost this, not this, not it's not gonna cost anybody anything, right? I mean, I want my rent paid, of course, but there's more freedom in giving than there is in receiving sometimes, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I founded the nonprofit Myrina.
Right.
Um, that is me paying forward because um, I had a booming career with my private
Hmm.
practice and, the teaching that I did back in Europe and,
Hmm.
my international workings to pay the bills. All of us have bills, granted,
For sure.
right? But it's not all about the bills.
Right.
I've seen so many professionals abuse addiction treatment for their patients and their clients, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That just left a very sour taste in my mouth. And I was never one of those. If I was, I would have been in a better place in life right now than where I'm at. But um, the nonprofit is, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's uplift the humanity. I mean, this is a disease. This is not a personality disorder, you know,
Yeah.
and it it deserves to be treated as a disease, not that, oh, Joe Schmo is actually a horrible person because he
Yeah.
drinks all. That is so backwards. That is 18th century understanding of the disease. And unfortunately, we're still talking about stigma. We're still talking about inadequate care. We're still talking about not looking at the whole picture. Um,
Yeah.
why do we have homelessness in the 21st century? I
I
mean,
think that uh I think homelessness is perpetual. If you said if you just took one day and went down. This homelessness is so scattered out. There's so many different levels of it, right? You can have a
yeah,
person that's sleeping on their auntie's couch, and all auntie got to go is do like you didn't do the dishes, get out. Now instantly that person is homeless, right? How many times have we heard that? Just like the TSA culture right now, where they got to go
yeah,
to work and not get paid, right? And so how many of those people are close to being homeless? You know what I mean? But 3 weeks ago they weren't. So I learned that in that particular realm,
it's
homelessness
easy
lives
to
on
become
different
homeless
levels.
here.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm a European, right? Some things are quite alien to me. I've been living here for a decade. My husband and our son. But I mean, here with the system that the way it is, it's so easy. You're just like one step away from becoming bankrupt, or you're just like one step away from becoming homeless. And mental health, homelessness, addiction, um, I don't know, domestic violence, domestic abuse, and all of that stuff. When you put all of that together, it is every aspect of addiction. Come on,
yeah,
what are
yeah,
we talking
yeah.
about here?
It's you got to look at the human anatomy, right? I mean, like neurologically, that we are created to either feel safe because of an action or to not feel safe, right? And the end game with that is like survival, right? To carry on, right? If we
Yeah,
weren't, if we weren't, if we didn't mind the rattlesnake, but we were walking through the desert, we probably get bit and fall down, right? But there's something deep in our brain that basic survival system that we all have. It tells us that this might be an issue. We don't have to have experience of getting bit to know that that's dangerous.
yeah,
And I think that being homeless and being housed is one of the five basic needs, right? It is a
exactly.
requirement. You can survive. Um, you can survive if you keep moving. But what I learned is that when you people on the street are exhausted. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because they don't they can't sit down. They can't allow their body to recover in a way that like the body needs to be stretched out. So
Yeah,
like and it needs you like off its radar in order for it to go to its places and do its thing. If you're up all the time and you're sleep deprived, it's like, man, when is this cat gonna rest? I mean, can we get a timeout? Somebody throw the flag, man. This guy's he's going. Like we can't we don't have time to do our job because this dude is still up. and he's driving and all kinds of stuff. We don't know what body shuts down. Boom. Hard shut down.
Yeah.
Take him down.
I
So
actually love the hypocrisy when people just walk by a homeless person and they have a few words to mutter, right?
yeah.
Because they are really like offended by that person's presence.
Yeah.
And I always say to that person, why don't you try sleeping out there with him one night?
Oh,
And maybe you will change your mind, you know?
man.
It's easy to assume, but when you assume, you make an ass of me and you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
You know what I do from time to time. And I just go by instinct on this. I sometimes I will bless people with. I very rarely say no to people who ask me things on the street, right?
yeah,
And what I like about that is the fact that they felt comfortable enough to approach me and
yes,
ask me something that somebody would typically say no to, right? Could be a
yeah,
cigarette, could be a few dollars. If they ask for two, they might get 10.
yeah,
But the fact that they were able to come to me and make that connection furthers the fact that this person needs to be blessed if I'm in the position to do that,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so, those things like that, those are the times that only God is watching.
I mean,
He's watching like this. He's watching,
yeah.
so
I
and
was driving one day and I saw this young girl. Clearly, I knew it instinctively that, she was an addict. She was on
mhm,
the street. And I just passed her and then I pulled over, got out of my car, got some money out, and I gave it to her and I said, don't hurt yourself with it. Go to a
mm,
shelter and take care of yourself.
right,
And that moment between her and me was so special because she knew that I didn't give her that money for her to get high,
right.
right?
Because it came with a
And
message.
right. And I said, do you want me to drive you there?
There you go.
And
What'd she say? What was her response? She said, "Yep,
nod.
yep,
And it didn't it didn't bugger my day up.
yeah,
It just took me on a detour for about 30 minutes, right?
yeah,
And I'm hoping that that actually influenced her in a way that those little things do matter. We can be
yeah."
better human beings. We don't have to have
Hmm.
horse blinders on, you know?
Yeah, it's just like
Um,
Michael Jackson said, you look in the mirror and start with yourself, And
exactly.
the best thing that you can do for somebody else is be the best version of yourself, so yeah, that's
I
that's
think we've
all,
lost that a little bit.
yeah,
We need to
yeah,
remind people to do those little acts of kindness here and there.
yeah.
So when you look at yourself in the mirror, if you can go back in time, you know, what
Hmm.
advice would you give Greg?
I'll be like, man, you need to invest in a double seat belt because you're about to be on one heck of a ride, pal. You about to-
There you
You're gonna get
go.
you're gonna get everything you ever asked for. Believe me, all those times
Yep.
you be like, oh, I want this and that. And I'm like, okay, it starts in motion, and that stuff is real. So get you
Yep.
some binoculars, some knee
Yep.
pads, some shoulder pads, because pal, we're about to throw you in the game. You know what I mean? So
There
hang
you go.
on. We're
Would
not
you
gonna
change
kill you.
anything?
No, nothing.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yeah, I feel
Nothing.
the same
Zero.
way. Yeah. With all the
Nothing. I
crap and
mean,
with all the beauty and with all the fun and with all the pain, I wouldn't change a darn thing.
I would, and you can only say that today, right? Because you don't know what lessons you will learn today that will make you a better person tomorrow, right? It's like staying in touch with yourself is so important, right? And sometimes that's the best way to help somebody else is from your example, Sometimes you don't even know who's watching, but it makes a difference.
And that makes us more powerful each and every
Mhm.
day within ourselves and within the people that we touch, however we choose to touch them.
That's
So,
right.
um, What is your success today?
I would say, legacy wise, I'm very proud to have been included in some of the uh, books on history of Seattle rap, right? Where my moniker was Colonel G for a long time, and we're the first generation of rappers in Seattle. Being acknowledged for those, being one of those guys, right, is important to me because for so many years I fed into this. You had to get good at writing, you had to get good at performing, you had to, all these things that I spent so much time for. I'm able to open a book and now read about the results of that, and that's important to me, right? The realer portions of my life where, the addiction, the crime, the prison, I think that those things are just meant for support. And when I'm supporting someone, right, to use as an example of how maybe I overcome and I can relate to you because of this. It's not meant for me to lead from, right? It's meant that the result of what you see now is accumulation of all those experiences, right? And they're not centered for just. I'm not defined by one set of experiences, right? I'm defined by what plan God had for me, right? And I finally feel like he is allowing me to experience that, right? He's allowing me to experience being responsible with money because I for a long time my money was a trigger for me, right?
Oh,
And so, but today it's not. You know what I mean? And I think that if we can manage finances, if an addict can manage finances, that's a big win. That's a big one right there. Yeah. Now I still love shopping. My
oh yeah.
my my habits have geared toward. I'm not gonna say that, but the type of stuff I'm shopping for now is definitely not as dangerous as what I was shopping with
Oh
before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What I'm shopping for now is food. I love to cook, right? And
Okay,
I love to just, oh, you're invited, dude. I'm going to come and get you, and I'm going
no
to
doubt.
feed you. Definitely.
Okay,
We'll have some Greek food. So, um, but I love shopping for food, and I love coming to my home and putting it all together, that fusion, that alchemy, that
yeah,
all of that. And my love language is to feed people.
that's
And
what's up.
that's the place that most of that, money goes to. Not
Right.
clothes, not makeup, not that, not
Hmm.
this.
Yeah,
It, it's just a part of life. It's part of my culture. It's part of my love language.
yeah.
And it's so easy to become a food addict when you're like that,
Oh man.
unfortunately.
Like, that's that. I mean, that I'd be a food addict all day. I like eating too. And
Yeah,
like I said, people say, well, how much G, what you weigh about, people call me G, right? They say,
yeah,
what you
yeah.
about? I was saying, look, the heavier I am, the better. Because if you see me and I got a little fat on me, the heavier I am, the better. Because when you see me and I'm not, and I'm looking like, I'm looking like a pencil or something like that, that's time to be concerned. So
Yeah.
as long as you see my cheeks, I can pinch my cheeks, I'm doing good. For real.
So, when you introduce yourself today, how would you introduce yourself? How do you feel about yourself?
Oh, I feel very optimistic about, what my pathway is now, what my mission, I'm very clear about what the assignment is now, I'll never go through what I experienced to get here again. So
Yeah,
the only place for me to look is really forward, right? The time
yeah,
I would pull back on something is if I need something from the past to support someone in the present, right? Like I said, I don't lead with any of that, but I just use it when I need to, and I think that the discernment that I have allows me to do that. But I'm not a drug counselor. I'm a hybrid counselor, right? I'm a guy who, well, he went to school for substance abuse, but he also has this, and he also has this experience. So I want to create a whole new class of counselor and case manager and
mostly.
support specialist, right? It's straight hybrid. You know what I mean? And so I think
Dude,
that now in today's world, you have to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
dude,
You
that
know?
is a totally different topic that you and we can just jabber on till tomorrow morning. But I got to tell you this much, okay?
Hmm?
Dividing help for people. Are you going to get substance abuse help from this person, and then you're going to get trauma help from that person,
Yeah.
and you're going to get that just feeds the system. That just
Yeah, right. Exactly.
system, it doesn't help anybody. How many
Right.
therapists or how many counselors am I going to trust in my life to move on somewhere? You know, um, a true counselor, right, actually does work on a hybrid level. We have to.
Right.
We have to. Maybe the criteria or the licensing is not like that. But back in Europe, I work with a person, a whole person, not bits of that person,
Yeah.
right? And I'm hoping to bring that to life again here because it was like that in the 90s when I was at school in New Jersey. When I was doing my internships at New Jersey before I went back to before I went back to Europe, and I've learned from the best here about
Right.
that. And when I came back after all those years, after 25 years, nearly 30 years, I'm like, what the heck has happened here?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
welcome aboard, dude. I am
Thank
so
you.
grateful that you took the time to sit with me, with us, and bear with us. Now, I interviewed you, and I give you the option. Ask me a question, whatever you are, whatever you want to ask me. Just ask me something.
I would ask you if you had an opportunity to create a platform where you would feel that would impact those who are struggling with addiction or in recovery, what would that look like?
Just look at our nonprofit. That's what it will look like. Towards the
Gotcha.
end of towards the end of my career, the level that I came in my career, my job was system building, and I used to teach anyway I used to teach at the medical faculty and other different universities back home, and I create systems. And I create systems not on paper, I create functional systems. That's my superpower. And I've thrown something together as our nonprofit. And I'll be darned, I can work till I'm 98, but I'm going to see that bloody thing up and going. And
Right.
I, it's my mission, it's my legacy, you know.
Yeah.
And the more the merrier. Whoever wants to join me in this mission, come on board. I'll join you with your mission, you join me with my mission, and we will eventually change the world.
I got two more questions for you outside the
Go for it.
box.
Go for it.
Favorite food,
Oh, I can't say
and
one.
why? Favorite food and why?
I can't say one. I've got so
Oh,
many.
yeah, you sure you got to start karate chopping. You know what I mean? I
Okay,
want
okay,
number
okay,
one.
okay, okay, okay. I am in love with a dish. It's an Italian seafood dish where they just put every kind of fish or sea creature in this
Mm,
big pan like a paella, and they put pasta in it, and they just jumble it and put it in the middle of the table, and you just eat till you die.
wow.
That's my favorite food.
Wow.
I can't remember the name of it, but that's my favorite food. Yeah,
That would be in the classification of an aquatic dish.
yeah,
Everything comes out the water. Okay,
yep.
next question is, what's your favorite movie of all time? And give me a line from that particular movie
Ooh.
that you remember that you can still remember today.
I'm horrible at remembering lines, but
Okay.
my favorite movie that I can watch over and over and over again, and that's not very many, is Green Mile,
Okay.
Tom Hanks.
Okay. Now I'm going to reverse that question because I want to put out there what I have several, but to be fair, I will. The feel-good movie for me that never fails is Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
cannot get around Lieutenant Dan. You cannot get around Mama. You can't get around Run, Forrest, run. I mean,
You know what?
this guy inspired Elvis for Christ's sake.
There you go. There you go. But when I look at the feel good part of it, you know,
Yeah.
Mamma Mia, the musical. If
Okay.
I
I never
want to
saw that,
be,
but I was pretty proud for though.
oh, come on, man. I
Mamma
mean,
Mia.
Mamma Mia, the musical.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
that always like makes me get up and dance, because I love to dance still. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a big movie fan, and I know Gladiator is up there, and American Gangster. Denzel's one of my favorite actors, but I just appreciate, like I was talking about, my love for, people not so much a champion, but people who have put energy into something and it shows,
yeah,
years later, right? So, it's just the
yeah,
skill level that you obtain from that. Sometimes it takes a while to marinate and that for that to develop, but I just
yeah.
appreciate a
Yeah.
good performance.
No, I do too. I do too. And I go for the directors more than I go for the actors and actresses.
Oh, yeah, it's
Because,
different level right there. Yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah.
Different
So, okay,
level.
what's your favorite addiction movie?
You mean like what movie do I you mean like addiction, like as in context, or one I like the most?
What you like the most?
I'm gonna go with Gladiator, Russell Crowe. Oh yeah, Maximus the General. I mean, come on, look how the movie starts. The guy got a wolf jacket on. He's respected by a huge army. He has a German Shepherd as a sidekick, and he comes through the forest and says, I mean, just so many strong, powerful scenes in that movie. I mean, even the gladiator scenes where he fights this guy who's been retired for so many years and he spares his life, right? Because, he could, Maximus the general, even as a slave, he could walk into an arena and gain the respect of the people that thought he was somebody else. You know what I mean? All the time, his aura of being a general put him in position, and he's still moving that way as a slave. So,
All right. You got me wrong though, dude. I'm talking about addiction. Which movie is your
what, like where they
movie?
did drugs or something? Oh, let
No,
me see.
no, 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 no,
Uh,
no, 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 no,
what?
no. The movie that depicts addiction. Which one of those movies
Oh,
are your favorite?
let me see. Those are hard for me to watch. I would say there was a movie called Traffic, I think, with Michael Douglas
Oh
and
man,
his
I love you.
yeah, and his daughter got addicted, and that whole beginning experience of how that dude turned her out like that was, and how she cried, and when she first
Yep.
took, just like, and him wanting to help his daughter, it's just like, that is so. I think that is probably one of the most impactful addiction films that I've seen because it was reflecting on the nature and the temperature of our society at
Yeah.
the time. So I think it was
And you
important.
know what? It looks at I that's my favorite movie too. And
Hmm.
it looks at every aspect of addiction
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense. I kudos to them. It's still my favorite. And
Yeah,
every time
yeah,
I talk about addiction to anybody, if you really want to understand addiction, just watch the movie with Benicio del Toro and watch Traffic because that is the best
yeah,
movie about
yeah, it is.
addictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And we've come to that
And
portion of the show.
yep, the ending, the part that I hate. I had so
The
much
part that I
fun
had. Yeah, it
talking
was a
to you.
blast. Yeah, for sure.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah,
So
no doubt. Yeah, I think
I
that
hope you feel good about doing this. That's
oh,
the
I
main
do.
thing.
It was unexpected, and I think that the way it developed, I was going through a lot in my life as far as, my health and stuff, which is getting better. So, as my health strengthens, I think that maybe this opportunity will as well. It's like I said, it's all about, for me, it's staying in touch with, what's going on in the community and what's going on in our society, and talking about ways to make that better, right? And so I think that through conversations and maybe have some guests come through, I think that if we explore enough of the pillars, then we can understand how to strengthen that and make it more structurally sound. So I think that yeah, for sure.
It's your turn to interview me next because
I
I
got
really
you.
do need someone to do
I
that.
got you. I'm gonna come with a 50 question uh part A, B, C.
Okay, go for it. Go for
All
it.
right,
I will
all
spill all of the beans. Well, thank you.
right.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
It's been a
And
pleasure. I appreciate you.
we'll come back later again. Thank you.
No doubt. See you.